Welcome back here, Facebook baseball fans. We have Deep Thread Sports Network back at you with another podcast here called Opposite Field. So you may recognize me from the Deep Thread Sports Network Splash and Go NASCAR podcast. My name is Marty. I'm going to be the host of the Opposite Field podcast. And you may also recognize Collin. You will definitely recognize Collin from our college football podcast and from the Splash and Go podcast. Collin's going to be another one of our analysts here on this MLB podcast. And then welcoming in, we have a new member here to the Deep Thread Sports Network. We have Jordan. Jordan is a huge baseball fan. He's going to be one of our analysts. He talks baseball constantly. So we're all very excited to have this baseball podcast headed towards you here. So quickly here, I'm going to take this over to Collin. I'm going to have Collin introduce himself again. And then after Collin, we'll introduce Jordan.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, Collin here. You see my face pretty regularly on Splash and Go, on the Deep Thread Sports Network college football show. I try to get in all these shows as I can, man. I love sports. That's why we started this network up. I love talking baseball. Jordan and I have talked baseball for years, always talking about fantasy. Jordan coming in, talking some strategies. We actually run a team together. Things have been great. I couldn't think of a better guy to have on to talk baseball with Marty and I. Marty and I have also spent countless hours talking about baseball. I feel like once a week we spend about an hour at a time doing some baseball quizzes. This has been a lot of fun so far. Hey, I'm really excited to bring some new content to you guys. Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself, buddy?
Yeah, so I'm Jordan. I'm good buddies with Collin and Marty, and there's just baseball's different, man. I love it, and it's fantasy baseball, everything. I watch probably I like the Orioles games. I've watched 140 of them probably this year, and it's just a bunch of different teams. I just love the game. There ain't nothing like it, and October is definitely my favorite month of the year.
There's no doubt I wake up to a text probably 5 to 6 days a week from Jordan talking about stuff that happened in a baseball game later at night. He's usually up a little bit later than I am, and I wake up to all kinds of new updates and headlines that I got to go brush up on because Jordan's already ahead of the game. So absolutely, this is awesome, Jordan. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome into Deep Thread Sports Network, man. This has been a lot of fun so far with everybody, and glad to have you as the new member of the team, man. So let's get this thing going, Marty.
Yeah, so we'll hit the ground running here. We have plenty to talk about, that's for sure. So we'll go ahead and go over our regular season talk here real quick. I'm going to start out by saying I am a Cardinals and Oakland A's fan. I'm a glutton for punishment. Apparently, I like to have my teeth kicked in. So real quick, if I could talk about one thing about this regular season, it's I hate the Cardinals front office, and I really want the heir to the Gap empire, John Fisher. I want him to eat a bag of shit, if I'm being completely honest. I do not like that individual. I have been to the O.Co Coliseum. I'm very lucky. I got to go there 2 years ago. You know, obviously they need to condemn that thing. I don't know, maybe launch it into space and send it towards the sun and have it burn up. I mean, that place is disgusting. It lived up to its hype. I mean, we're talking 8 inches of piss in a non-draining trough. There was an individual next to me. I was shielding my son because he was doing a bump of an illegal substance in the bathroom. It lived up to the hype for sure. I was glad I got to go do that, but I'm devastated as an Oakland A's fan. I've had a devastating season. I knew that this day was coming. I knew that between the local Oakland politicians, the commissioner of the MLB and John Fisher, them being frat buddies back in the day with Bud Selig, and then this commissioner, you have to come to terms with the fact that management and owners are always going to stick up for each other when these things happen. So when it comes to a vote to move, it almost always is going to happen because, 15, 20 years down the road, maybe they want that same vote to move in the future. So you have that kind of aspect of it. But for me, it was a miserable season. I just
Marty, real quick, I do have to ask, how was the scenery outside of the O.Co Coliseum? You talked about, the 7-8 inches of piss inside. I mean, what's the outside? It had to be a nightmare.
It was terrible. I mean, I have never been to Oakland. I'll put it off. This is my first time I went to California. My family and I, for my dad's 70th birthday, wanted to go to Big Sur, Little Sur. Then we went to San Francisco. And while I was there, I was like, hey, Oakland's playing. I'm going to go to an Oakland game. And I was amazed. It reminded me of like a Midwest industrial city that was ran down, that had like a steel mill or an old car factory. It just looked incredibly run down in that area. Now you have the whole Howard Terminal area needs to be cleaned up if you ever wanted another stadium and if you ever wanted this to work. In that, I mean, the local politicians just did not, they couldn't figure out how to make that work. There weren't very many good locations to build the stadium. And plus, you always had the MLB that was always siding with the Giants when it came to territories. So, Oakland had come up with building stadiums in other locations. And then the Giants were like, hey, I cry foul. That's our territory. I don't want you nabbing our fan base. But I mean, the Bay Area, talk about territory that's already close. As an Oakland A's fan, it upset me. There was no good answers here. This was failure for many, many years. And as a St. Louisan, we've seen this with the Rams. Now, the Rams, was pure 100% greed. I thought that local leadership here came up with what Stan Kroenke was asking during that time. In Oakland, John Fisher could never give you a straight answer as to what he wanted. And if he did give you a hint of what he wanted, the local politicians could never come up with anything. So it was a miserable year for me. I'm a Cardinals fan. We all know their struggles and their underachievements and their lack of player development. I'll put it nicely. I'll just put it there. We went from an organization that could develop players and had a great farm system and had the Cardinal way and had a certain way of doing things. And this organization is currently definitely strayed from that. So that's my biggest regular season talk. I'll kick it off to you guys and let you guys, I'm sure you guys have plenty to talk about because it's been a doozy of a season. That's for sure. So,
well, real quick here, Marty, good luck to the Oakland A's, I guess, when they become the Vegas A's. Is that correct? Right. That's where
as of right now, the Sacramento, I guess they're going to be Sacramento for a while. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, however this goes about for them, good luck. I think they're kind of all over the place. I don't really necessarily think they even have a definitive plan in place just yet, but hey, good luck to them. I do want to talk about Mason Miller real quick, man. That's one bright spot for the Oakland A's. You also have plenty of other bats that, man, if they really just piece this thing together and spend some money and invested in this team the right way, they would be okay. Marty, you and I have had hours of conversation about all the players that the Oakland A's have moved on from, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, and I'm just going to leave it at those two for now. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Man, they just keep blowing this thing up. It's really a shame. Hope they change their ways down the road. But yeah, man, I'm going to save the Cardinals talk for just a minute because I may take 30 minutes of our time doing that. So I'm going to kind of let Jordan kind of chime in here and give his first little talks about kind of what he thinks about the Oakland A's and the Cardinals as well.
Yeah, so you got Brent Rooker also on the Oakland Athletics, and that dude, I think he hit 39 bombs this year. Then you got Lawrence Butler, who had a phenomenal second half. He killed it. Their starting pitching rotation has its flaws for sure, but JP Sears, he's pretty good arm, and Daz Cameron. I like the Oakland A's. It's just not working out for him, and I hope the best for him in the future. Him leaving Oakland obviously sucks. They've been there forever, and wherever they end up next, Las Vegas or Sacramento, I wish them the best of luck. And Mason Miller, he's good, so they got something going there. And I thought it was really funny when he wanted to get traded away. Pretty sure he punched a table or punched something, broke his hand, and went on the IL for a little bit. And that's always, it ain't good to see for them, but for us, it's hilarious.
Oh, no, for sure. Mason Miller was a bright spot for sure. He was electric to watch. It was one of the bright spots of this Oakland A's team. You mentioned Brent Rooker and Trevor Lawrence. My God, that was an unbelievable turnaround. Lawrence Butler. Just an unbelievable second half. That was remarkable what he did. But, Shea Langoliers, I think he has some upside to him. I would like to see that batting average go up quite a bit. But they have their bright spots on this team. They got that, Zach Geloff, who, he can get streaky at times. But, they're a developing team. I don't think that they're going to be super successful next season. I think they're getting away from the worst team in the league moniker. Thank God. We've had the White Sox kind of clutch that from their hands. But we'll go ahead and we'll talk about, like, Collin, have there been any surprise teams, or Jordan, have there been any surprise players? I'll let you guys kind of take it from there. What have been some of your surprises that you've seen this year, or maybe some teams that you've enjoyed watching this year?
Well, the White Sox, man, you kind of talked about that. Is it a surprise to me that the White Sox were terrible? No. Is it a surprise to me that the White Sox broke the record and lost 121 games? That's unbelievable. You play 162 games and you lost 121 baseball games. I don't even know what to say about that. That's appalling. That's horrible. That brings up the fact that we've talked about this before, all three of us together, actually. There needs to be a minimum salary cap as well. I mean, these teams should be forced to spend some money to bring better sports, better athletics, better baseball to their stadium, to their fans that are dedicated, that spend the money on season tickets and going to these games and putting their asses in the seats, spending money at the concessions. Man, these guys love your team. Invest in them. Give them something to watch. Put a product out there that you're proud of, man. And right now, the White Sox are an absolute dumpster fire. It's a joke. I can't even believe that the MLB is letting this happen. But yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cardinals. The Cardinals, for me, you both know I wear this shirt. I'm a proud Cardinals fan, but I'm also one pissed off Cardinals fan, man. I took the season total under 85.5 wins. I never had a sweat. There was a few times where I would be like, man, they might get streaky and catch a few dubs here, but they always screwed it up, man. Ali Marmol found a way to screw it up. The front office, John Mozeliak, finds ways to screw this up. Their player development's horrible. You see these trades go down all the time for the Cardinals. These players move on. They're successful elsewhere. There needs to be a lot of changes made. You know, we have a long offseason coming up, so we'll really dive into the Cardinals and some of these other teams more in the offseason and give you guys a full outlook on what we think about these teams. But right now, fellas, the Cardinals are in a bad spot. I read today that they're going to move on from Paul Goldschmidt. I think that actually is a good move. I'm a huge Paul Goldschmidt fan. Let's not get that twisted. But I think it's time to, move on from Paul Goldschmidt. This team's not ready to win right now. I think you just wasted really good years of Paul Goldschmidt's career. I think you wasted really good years of Nolan Arenado's career still. And you wasted it by not building around those guys. You don't sit here and tell me, and don't any fan comment tell me that they built around those guys, because they didn't. Your pitching rotation's horrible. Your bullpen's not great besides Ryan Helsley. Your offense is awful. Yeah, congratulations. You get streaky at times. This is not a good baseball team, fellas. So, yeah, not a surprise to me. I just wanted to bitch about the Cardinals for a little bit, man, because they really pissed me off. So, Jordan, if you have any teams that surprised you, we still have plenty of things to talk about with teams and some players. Why don't you get into it a little bit here?
I'll just join in and talk about the Cardinals. Well, I've been a Cardinals fan for a long time, and I've been to 2 Cardinals games this year, and I wore an Adley Rutschman jersey and an Ellie De La Cruz jersey, and I just boycotted them, and I'm going to still boycott them until they do something different. I mean, you got Jordan Walker, one of the best prospects in the league, and you can't get – it looks like he's swinging a pool noodle. Like, he just looks horrible up there, and then you send him down once, bring him up, send him back down, bring him up, send him down, like 3 or 4 times this year. And you're just destroying the kid's confidence. And it's just a joke is what it is. The front office, they need a clean house, and they need to start with Oliver Marmol, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. No, you're fine. I'm glad you brought that up, Jordan. Jordan Walker. We have got to see some sort of difference in the St. Louis organization when it comes to developing players. And also, how many times have we seen over the past year, couple of years here, where we would send hitters down, people who are struggling, and they start hitting well, and then they come up and they hit well for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they hit the same slump that they had earlier in the season. Don't you think that we need to take a different approach to our hitting and our hitting coach here in St. Louis?
Absolutely. And what kind of frustrates me too is you call these prospects up and you sit them on the bench. What are we doing? When you call these guys up, call them up to play them. Otherwise, you're just robbing the bats. Luken Baker, a guy that should have had way more bats than what he did. You call him up and he sits there on the bench collecting dust. Then he gets a pinch hit and he yanks it out of the park. I mean, what are we doing right now? This is absolutely poor management, top to bottom. No matter how you divide this up, it is awful. We sat here and we moved on from Mike Schilt, manager of the San Diego Padres. He just led the Padres on a wild second half of the season to make a playoff run. We fired him for philosophical differences. I've never heard such a thing. I have never in my life heard of such a thing when you have some success where you fire a coach for philosophical differences. I think the philosophical differences were he's ready to win and y'all aren't. And he proves that point going to the San Diego Padres. I know he didn't go straight to the Padres from the Cardinals, but hey, he's got this Padres team under his belt. They're making a playoff push. And while I'm talking about the Padres, I'm going to talk about that second half. They make a trade for Luis Arias. They brought him in. What a great addition that was for this team. And they had two kind of heroes that we haven't really talked about much going into the season. And Jurickson Profar and Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill's probably and should win National League Rookie of the Year. The guy was absolutely electric. What he brought to this team in the second half was unbelievable. And then you have a guy like Jurickson Profar, who was a top prospect back in the day, who never really found his stride. But man, this year, the guy comes in, bats 280, double-digit steals, over 20 home runs. What an absolute leap for him to make with this team. It is huge for them. And that on top of that, you surround him with Jake Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado. You put these two guys in a team like that, and wow, they really capitalized on everything they brought together. What a fierce lineup that is. I'm really high on the Padres, and I'm really glad they put this thing together, and I'm happy for Mike Schilt.
Yeah, Jordan, what else would you like to add when it comes to some surprises? I know you had some other people on the list that you wanted to talk about.
Another team for me is the Texas Rangers. They come out after winning the World Series last year, and I get it. Corey Seager's on the IL probably 3 different times this year, and DeGrom's been hurt. I get all that, but then you got Adolis Garcia that come out, and I think he batted like 220 something. But just then they got Wyatt Langford and Josh Smith. I'm glad to see what I've seen out of them guys. They had a pretty good season, and I hope next year they're going to probably add Coomer Rocker to the rotation, and that'll be a good add. So I think they ended up like 78 and 84. Didn't even finish 500 after winning the World Series, and that's just something you can't have as an organization in my eyes.
Well, Jordan, you and I talked before the season about dipping our fingers on the Texas Rangers team total wins over. I don't remember. I think it was like 89 and a half, or it was up there. It was somewhere really high, and we were kind of in on that. Yeah, I mean they have a lot of star power. Wyatt Langford coming in out of the draft this year was a massive get for them, and he looks like he's going to be all the part. So that's really good for them. I think, you kind of have that World Series hangover, mix it in with some injuries, and this is kind of what you get, man. I think next year it kind of turns around for them, get some guys healthy, and they could probably make another run at this thing. The AL was super competitive all year long, too. That didn't make things easy for them. Yeah, and you talked about, Josh Young being on the IL almost all season long. That did not help them. He played a huge part in that World Series run last year for them. So, yeah, man, the Rangers really, really kind of down and didn't go their way. But, hell, man, you're coming off a World Series championship, and I think they get right back at the playoffs next season.
Yeah. So another thing that we obviously want to talk about here, it's going to be tough to not talk about this individual player here, but let's talk about somebody who created a new stat this season, the 50 for 50 club, Shohei Ohtani. Did you guys see this coming? I mean, I always knew that Shohei could steal some bags, but did you guys see 50 bag swipes this season? Because I honestly didn't see quite that many coming.
Man, I knew he was good. I mean, he pitches too, but 50-50, it's impressive. Like, he's good. And throw him on the bump next season, and he's going to be your ace, and he's going to be a dog on the bump too. It's incredible. I mean, I'm the biggest anti-Dodger guy you're going to meet. You're going to find that out here in a little bit. But he's good, and he's probably going to go down as one of the best baseball players I'll ever see to do it.
I'm going to be honest, fellas. I think he's already there, Jordan. I do, and it pains me to say it. I knew with all the hype that coming around Shohei Ohtani, let's rewind. Back when he came into the league, I just kept telling myself, man, there's no way. There's just no way. He might be A+ at one of these things, but being A+ at both, there's just no way. And then we didn't even talk about how the guy steals bags. I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing for Shohei Ohtani. I mean, yeah, 15, 20 steals. I thought he could get that. Fellas, we're talking 57 stolen bases. I don't think any of us saw that happen. And the fact that he did that in the year where he can't pitch due to an injury, I think he really proved his worth. I mean, he comes out here, hits 54 home runs, 57 stolen bases, and bats 309. The guy did everything for the Dodgers. He was an absolute problem all season long. He's a nightmare for other teams. And there's talks that he might find the bump in the postseason. If that's the case, it really changes things for the Dodgers. I do think, for me, the Dodgers are missing that true guy that they just give the ball to, and when you give him the ball, he's going to go get that win 90% of the time. You sprinkle him back into the mix, I doubt he's a full go if he comes back for the postseason, but if you could sprinkle him out of the bullpen or something, what a problem that's going to be for opposing teams as well. So, yeah, man, congratulations to Shohei Ohtani on the 50-50 club. Congratulations to the Dodgers. You know, we thought the signing was crazy with the money they spent on it and the way they did it. But, hey, I think it's proved its worth pretty simple. I mean, this is a cut and dry. Every team could go back and do exactly what the Dodgers did. I think they would have no doubts now.
Yeah, we have tons of other players that we obviously want to get you here. So if you guys want to talk to me a little bit about Bobby Witt, he is a fun player to watch. He's been a fun player. I think he's going to continue to be a fun player to watch. What have you guys seen out of him this season that kind of makes him somebody that you don't want to take your eyes off of?
Electric season for Bobby Witt, man. I love what he did for the Royals. Young baseball player, really brought it all season long. Every time you watch Bobby Witt play baseball, it's like he's playing it exactly how you tell like your kids, if you have kids or your friends' kids, exactly how you tell them to play the game. Play it like it's your last game. Go out there. You never know when it's going to be the last pitch you see. Bobby Witt, incredible season. 332 average, 32 home runs, 109 RBIs, and 31 stolen bases. You can't ask for much more from a young player on your team like that. And this guy plays great defensive shortstop, an absolute cornerstone for the Royals to build around moving forward. You mix him in with some Vinny Pasquantino. This is a good baseball team, fellas. And yeah, I think you'll find out later just how high some of us are on the Royals and Bobby Witt, because I think Bobby Witt's the kind of guy that could put a team on his back in the postseason and make a run at this thing. So Bobby Witt, congratulations to you, man. You just happened to get hit by a buzzsaw Aaron Judge to go against you for the AL MVP. Otherwise, you would be up there in conversations for that AL MVP. Even though you still are, it's just going to be real slim to win that.
Yeah, Jordan, anything you want to add to Bobby Witt or any other players you would like to talk about there, Jordan?
Oh, let's go to the Paul Skeens combo because I know we've all been itching at that. And seeing him come out of college, I guess last year he won a natty with LSU, and then he got drafted, went to the Pirates, and being Cardinals fans, we're like, oh, Pirates got him, the central talk. But anyway, I think he probably already is in my eyes top 3 pitcher in the league. I mean, he finished with a 1.9 ERA, I think, with I don't even know how many strikeouts. But just coming out, being a rookie, and just
170 Ks.
strikeouts.
Yeah.
That's
Paul
incredible.
Skeens wrapped it up with a 1.96 ERA, 170 Ks, and 133 innings pitched with an 11-3 record on the Pirates as a rookie.
That's awesome.
The guy is just incredible. He's got 5 or 6 pitches that would all be A+ pitches on for any other pitcher in the major leagues. I'm 100% with you, Jordan. He is no question, as it sits right now in my mind, a top 3 pitcher in baseball. If you're a fantasy baseball person, he will be a first-round draft pick in fantasy baseball leagues next year. The guy had 11 wins on the Pirates. On the Pirates. You put this guy anywhere else in his career down the road, and he is everyday Cy Young candidate no matter where he's at. He's a Cy Young candidate on the Pirates. The guy is absolutely electric. But while we're talking about some pitching performances, let's talk about Chris Sale's resurgence. Chris Sale for the Braves comes in being banged up nonstop for the last couple years. Never really found his way. Had a good season here or there, but for the most part, been hurt and not giving teams much. You know, he's kind of been passed around. Spent some time with the Red Sox. Wasn't necessarily great for them. He wraps it up this season with a 2.38 ERA, 225 Ks, and an 18-3 record on a Braves team who was banged up all season, man. It's incredible what the Braves have accomplished this season without a lot of their players. I mean, you see Ronald Acuna go down early for the season. Michael Harris banged up here and there. Austin Riley banged up here and there. Sean Murphy. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Spencer Strider, your kind of your NL Cy Young favorite coming into the season. Just so many injuries for this Braves team, and the fact that we're still discussing them, where they're going to go play a doubleheader on Monday to try to squeeze the last playoff spots out, absolutely incredible. And what Chris Sale did for them is probably why we're having this conversation about the Braves still. So hats off to Chris Sale on the resurgence. Man, that was super fun stuff to watch, and he's probably going to win your NL Cy Young.
Yeah, I think Chris Sale came out after Spencer Strider got hurt early and said, "Hold my beer, buddy. I'm gonna do what you were supposed to do this year." Because if you would have told me Chris Sale outperformed, I know he got hurt, but if you would have told me Chris Sale did that this year, I would have lost a lot of money because his season was incredible.
It was fun to watch, man. It was fun to watch the old school White Sox Chris Sale come out, throw it from way outside, and just get inside on left-handed hitters, absolutely make right-handed hitters look like they're swinging a pool stick. This was a lot of fun to watch Chris Sale this season. But while I'm on a roll and talking about pitchers, both of you guys know I was all in on my boy Tariq Skubal before the season started to win AL Cy Young. Even went across the lines and bet me a futures on that before the season started. Tariq Skubal, you are the man. You are the only reason I don't have Paul Skeens as my number one pitcher in baseball because I gave it to you. You wrapped the season up on the Tigers with a 2.19 ERA, 228 Ks, and an 18-4 record. Fellas, he is the reason the Tigers are in the American League Wild Card Series. This guy was a dog. This guy has it all. If you watch his arm slot and if you watch the delivery, and sometimes you'll find some videos out there of some pitch overlays, good Lord, man, I don't know how anybody hits this guy. He is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with everything you said. Jordan, anything you want to chime in there?
No, he pretty well covered it all. He's an animal.
Well, I'll let you.
He
I'll
hit the
let
nail
you.
on the head.
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and talk about a player that I've heard you talk about all season long, and that is Gunnar Henderson. Tell me what you saw out of him this season. He ended up hitting 37 bombs, 21 stolen bases, 92 RBIs. What did you see out of him this season?
So Bobby Witt's big on my list, and if I had to pick, I don't. He'd be my number two, Gunnar Henderson, to build a franchise around because he's just young and he's good. Like everything about him, he drives a bit. He hit 37 home runs this year, and he would have led the Orioles if it wasn't for his old buddy Anthony Santander. Just he was a machine too the second half, and I think Gunner might have slowed down halfway through the season for a little bit, didn't hit very many of them, but then he picked right back where he left off and he ended up with 37 of them. And it's just incredible. I think he might have some errors on the season. I don't know if it's a whole lot, but it's that's something you can work on though. Hitting home runs is what we like to see, and he can do it all.
Well, Gunnar Henderson, man, he's kind of been slotting back and forth between shortstop, third base. He's kind of been moved around a little bit. So trying to find that rhythm, especially as a young player. I think moving forward down the stretch, I think this guy's going to have no problems whatsoever. He kind of had a really slow start starting out last season as a rookie, and you saw him really take his stride after being called back up from the minor leagues last season and lit it up the second half of last year and never really slowed down coming into this season. He did, like you said, Jordan, kind of have a cold spell here or there. But, man, we're playing 162 baseball games in the dead of the summer. We're talking young guys that haven't necessarily done that before. And I think that's kind of why we saw the Orioles slow down a little bit as well, because coming out of the gate in the first half, man, they looked like world beaters. They looked like they were World Series favorites. Looked like nobody was going to catch them for a while. They came back down to reality, and I think that is kind of attributed to the younger guys on this team. They did trade for Corbin Burnes at the deadline, and Corbin Burnes needs to really grab this team by the reins, be the face of this pitching rotation, do what the Orioles brought him in to do, and they can also make a deep playoff push as well. But while we're talking about some players too, I want to talk about Vlad Jr. a little bit. Toronto Blue Jays, another upsetting season for them, just not meeting expectations year in and year out. They have really, really good players, man. Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette are two of the best guys you could build a franchise around, and they just can't find it. They also have some pretty decent pitching, man. So this Toronto Blue Jays, I know they play in a really tough division. They're matched up against, the Orioles, the Rays that get hot at times. And let's not forget the Yankees and the Red Sox, man. So tough task for them at hand. But Vlad Jr. hit 357 on the second half of this season. That is absolutely incredible, fellas. He's another guy that I had placed the futures on to win AL MVP. And I think if we don't have a guy like Aaron Judge standing in his way, I would have a good shot at this one too. I mean, the guy ended the season at 326 with 30 home runs at 103 RBIs. He was the Blue Jays' whole entire offense for this season.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's elite. Absolutely. I mean, he proved that again this season. So I know that there's one more we definitely want to get to here. Why don't you guys tell me a little bit of Manuel Clase? Tell me what you've seen out of him this season and what you think he brought to the table this season.
So odds are, if you're playing a baseball game against the Guardians and Emmanuel Clase comes to the bump in the ninth, you're not scoring a run. You're probably two or maybe even three of you are striking out because his stats. I've seen something the other day is like 66 innings pitched, and it was like his ERA was a .6 or something ridiculous, and it's unbelievable. Like the year he had, and I don't even think it was just this year. I think it runs back into the last previous couple seasons, and his ERA is still in like low ones. It's just unheard of what he's doing on the bump, and I'm glad to see it. I think they're going to make a pretty good push. We'll get to that a little bit, but
they're going to make a push because of him.
yeah,
You get this game within one run, or you get this game tied in the ninth inning, and Emmanuel Clase comes out on the bump, like you said, Jordan. No team scoring. He's going to stonewall the other team. Doesn't matter if it's their 2-3-4, 3-4-5. Doesn't matter who's up. He will get them out. He had a .61 ERA on the season and had 47 saves. This is the one guy that was pushing Tariq Skubal down the stretch to win the Cy Young against him as a closer. Absolutely electric stuff for Emmanuel Clase, fellas. This guy is the real deal, and he gives the Guardians all chances to make a deep playoff run.
so I just wanted to look it up. It says he's got 144 career saves and a 1.78 ERA and 279 strikeouts. Is unbelievable.
That is remarkable.
You're talking a guy that can make his way up the saves list, make his way up all kinds of closers list. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's no Mariano Rivera or anything yet, but I mean, this guy has got absolutely electric stuff. But before we move on and get out of the regular season, kind of hitting on some highlights, I want to tip the cap to a guy that I've been a huge fan of for a really long time. Never really got all the credit in the world that I felt like he deserved. Charlie Blackmon taking the field for the last time today for the Colorado Rockies. And it kind of gives me goosebumps sitting here because what the Rockies did, I don't know if you guys saw it. I highly recommend you guys going up online and finding this video somewhere. The Rockies let Charlie Blackmon take the field by himself one last time before the rest of the team ran out. And that was really neat stuff, man. Like I said, gives you all the goosebumps in the world. He was a great guy for this sport. Never was in headlines in a bad way. Never was doing baseball the wrong way, man. He just came out to play day in and day out for a shitty-ass Colorado Rockies team, and he just grinded it out with them, man. He was just happy to be a pro ball player, and I love players like that. Charlie Blackmon, you were one of my favorite players I've watched play in a really long time, man. So all the best to you in your future endeavors. Man, I wish the best for you. You were great to watch.
Yeah, well said, Collin. So we'll go ahead and we'll kick off some of our playoff talk here. So the one thing that I really want to point out is there is a doubleheader matchup tomorrow. That's Monday. That is the 30th, and that is between the Mets and the Braves. They're playing at Atlanta. And this is very important here because it kind of fills out the rest of our wild card here. But if either team sweeps, the Diamondbacks are in. That's an important thing to realize here. I'm not sure what time this will air, so that's just something to keep in mind here. But real quick, we're going to go through our postseason picture here a little bit. So over on the AL side, all right, for the wild card, we have the Houston Astros, the Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Royals, and the Orioles. And then for the ALDS so far, we have the Guardians and the Yankees. Over the postseason picture is not going to be as clear in the NLDS, obviously, because the wild cards are not quite settled there. But we have the Phillies and the Dodgers. So I want both of you guys, because every year there are upsets and there are surprises. So what are some of the upsets? What are the surprises that you have seen with this postseason picture?
Yeah, I want to talk real quick about how I think the Baltimore Orioles and the Kansas City Royals do have a little bit of bullpen concern. Both of these teams have an ERA over 4 coming out of the bullpen, and that does concern me down the stretch. Now, you will be surprised a little bit later that I do have one of these teams making a deep run because I think their offense can overcome that. I think they have some players that they can kind of hop on their back and let them ride the rest of the way. But, man, I'm super surprised that the Tigers ended up making the playoffs in the AL. We look back 2 months ago, we thought there was no chance in hell. I was talking to you guys all the time because I also had a futures on the Tigers to make the playoffs. And what an absolute run down the stretch they had. And they got hot. Riley Green really started smacking the baseball around. Like I said earlier, Tariq Skubal had settled in for sure. Every time he was taking the bump every fifth day, you knew they had a chance to win. And they slowly just clawed their way back and kept believing, man. They knew it was a process. It was a marathon, not a sprint. It's 162 games. They took about 159 or 158 of those for them to make their move into this. And I'm happy they're here. I think they can make a run as well. So the Tigers were a super big surprise for me down the stretch to sneak into the playoffs.
And shout out to the Twins for completely choking their playoff chances away.
Oh my goodness. You said it all there, Jordan. So while we're on this topic, guys, why don't you give me some people that you think are going to be an X factor in these playoffs? Tell me somebody that you think is going to go out there, either offensively, pitcher, even throw defense out there. Tell me somebody who you're going to keep an eye on early in these playoffs.
I think I'm mainly looking at the my matchup that I like the best is what I want to talk about. It's the Tigers versus the Astros. No one likes the Astros, and if you do, I'm sorry, but the Detroit pitching, like we already stated, is on a tear right now, and I hope they keep it up because there's nothing better than playoff baseball without the Houston Astros.
Well, kind of talking about some of that, we talk about some bullpens here and some rotations. The Tigers and the Braves and the Guardians all have great bullpens. Obviously, the Braves still have to sneak this out and make it in. But if they do make it in and these teams give them a chance to win and their offenses can score some runs and they can get the game to the bullpen, the Tigers, the Braves, and the Guardians can really make a push. They can really, stonewall other teams, secure the bag, even when it's not looking good necessarily at all times, because they will keep opposing teams from scoring runs late, and that is huge in the playoffs. You always watch the playoffs, and I'm a firm believer that pitching and defense wins games in the playoffs, wins games in October, helps you hang the pennants up. I'm a firm believer in that. So I'm really, really high on the Tigers and the Guardians. I really am.
Yeah, another thing, the Padres, the end of the season, their last, I don't know how many starts it was, but in fantasy baseball, I streamed the Joe Musgrove and I had Dylan Cease and I had like 3 of their top probably 4 pitchers, and they lit up like 3 earned runs in like 40 innings or something absurd. And if they bring that into October, it's going to be fun to watch, especially because if they win the first one, they play the Dodgers.
Dude, they bring pitching like that into October, man, and they are going to make a push. There's no questions asked because their offense is lethal. I think they led the league with a 264 team total batting average. So you combine that team average with that pitching, and they will for sure make a deep run in the playoffs. You talk about great offenses as well with the Padres here. Houston's offense and Philly's offense and the Dodgers offense, all known for hitting the ball around the park. They have guys 1 through 9 who can do that for each of them. The Orioles, Yankees, and Dodgers, they were all 3 over 230 team total home runs. So that's absolutely incredible stuff as well. I mean, no opposing pitcher wants to go face those guys. But you put some of these playoff guys up here, and they will be up for the challenge, and they will make those teams earn it. I just don't really think the Orioles' young guys can really push them to the next round. So yeah, I want to save my playoff picks till the end so I don't spoil anything. And it's really hard talking about this, but I mean, Marty, who are you kind of looking at in the playoffs here? I mean, you know some ball as well, so let's not skip over your picks. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, this is where I'm going to go in a little bit of rant, and this is where my jealousy is going to come out here a little bit. But I'm looking very closely at the Milwaukee Brewers here, and I'll tell you for one reason and one reason alone, it doesn't seem like it matters who they lose, and they still find ways to go out there and be competitive. And as a Cardinal fan, it makes me just want to vomit when I look at their payroll compared to ours, and you look at the people that they lose. It doesn't matter what position it is. It doesn't matter who they lose behind the plate, on the bump. It does not matter. This organization finds ways to win. And like I said, they're rivals of ours. Obviously, we kind of have to hate them. But as a fan of the Cardinals, I look at that organization and I'm jealous. I have jealousy oozing out of my ears. I will be completely honest with you. So I'm looking at the Brewers, and I will be honest with you. I love watching Kansas City play. And once again, I'm supposed to hate their guts just because of where I live. But hey, excitement's excitement, man. I can watch that team play, and they are just exciting to play. And I'll be real honest. I want a young. I'm begging for a young, exciting team to go out and just beat the shit out of the Dodgers. I want that to happen so bad. I can't even I can't even put it into words. That is, once again, that's nothing other than just pure jealousy. They can go out and buy whoever the hell they want, and they can be successful with those people, and they're supposed to go out there and kill everybody. And I do not want to see that happen. Other than I do like Shohei Ohtani. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But I really want to see Kansas City, and I really want to see the Milwaukee Brewers make some noise here, just purely out of jealousy. And I want more firepower to lob at the Cardinals front office and say, how come you need to go get your notebook out and start taking some notes, because this is how you do it when maybe you have things that don't go your way. Okay, so you don't go out and you don't get a Juan Soto, but you figure out other ways then to be competitive as a franchise, as an organization. And I've seen that out of the Milwaukee Brewers here for the last couple of years, and they've been super impressive.
You just had to bring up Juan Soto. You just had to bring
I'm
up
sorry,
Juan
dude.
Soto,
Somebody had to
and
do it. I know you want to vomit every time you hear his name, but
every time, man.
if it was the Milwaukee Brewers, they'd figure out a way to move on from that and still be successful.
I say the St. Louis Cardinals did not. I can't even going back to this. The St. Louis Cardinals did not trade for Juan Soto, and everybody that was discussed in a trade for Juan Soto, A, never hits over 230, or B, is no longer a part of the St. Louis Cardinals. You look over at the New York Yankees, and they probably still would have found their way to the playoffs, but they probably wouldn't be the one seed in the playoffs without Juan Soto batting from the left-handed side of that lineup and really taking a lot of pressure off of Aaron Judge. I mean, Aaron Judge is still Aaron Judge, but a guy like Juan Soto in your lineup also relieves a lot of pressure from Aaron Judge. So not to dive into that too much, that topic just gets me every single time. And as a Cardinals fan, you're right, Marty. You watch what the Brewers are doing. It's shocking that the Cardinals don't push their chips all the way in and really go knock the Brewers off, because I don't feel like that's as tough of a task as what a lot of these teams have, man. You look at the Orioles in the AL East, and they're tasked against playing the Red Sox and the Yankees and all this. That's a tough division to go win. You look at the Cardinals in the NL Central, it's wide open. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, it's pitiful. But yeah, now that I'm off my soapbox, back to the playoffs. Marty, why don't we go ahead and break this playoff bracket down? Why don't we go just series by series, round by round? Maybe just hit me and Jordan up with our picks throughout every single series. Let's get into the playoffs, man. This is the best part of the season.
I agree. I absolutely love playoff baseball. It's such a special time of the year for me. I just love it. It's you're drawn down from the summer heat. You're getting a little bit of Christmas in the air. I just love everything about it. So let's break down. We'll go ahead and we'll start with this AL wild card. What do you guys expect to see out of some of these games here, and who do you think is going to advance from that?
Yeah, so I'll just start off with I already talked a little bit about the Tigers versus the Astros, and like I said, I will never cheer for an Astros or a Houston team in the playoffs. It don't matter what sport
Jordan.
it is, especially baseball. But I'm gonna have to lean with Detroit. I already hinted at it, kind of spoiled it a little bit about their ERA. And I mean, Torkelson, he didn't do nothing all season, and he finally started hitting some home runs. And Riley Green's been doing good again. He's had his cold spells, but think if that lineup puts up some runs with that or with that bullpen and their starting pitchers, they're going to be hard to beat, and they're going to make a pretty good run.
Yeah, Jordan, to kind of build off what you were saying, I think we're in total agreement here that I'm going to go ahead and take the Tigers to advance past the Houston Astros. Maybe I'm betting with my heart there a little bit, but I also really do think the Tigers can get this thing done. I think you put Tariq Skubal out there game one, that's going to get you a win. That can give you a leg up in the series already. You jump out, win that first game on the road in Houston. That's a great, great start for the Tigers. I really do think they go out and win game one, make a statement, and I think that they go ahead and win that first wild card series.
I'm going to sit there and I'm going to have to agree with everything that pretty much Jordan said. I will never root for the Houston Astros. I don't care. They could have a baseball player in their team that cured cancer, and I still would not support them as a franchise after everything that went down. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers there. Obviously, we talked about all the great pitching that they've had out of Skubal this year and some of the offensive threats that they've had. I'll be really honest, I did not see this team being as successful as they did at the start of the season. Collin had talked to me for a while about the Detroit Tigers and how I need to keep my eye on them. And I'll be real honest, I did not. And here they are. So they've impressed me. So I'm definitely going with the Detroit Tigers. Now, starting off with the other wild card game, I'm going to go ahead and make my pick, and I'm going to make it real quick. So the Kansas City versus Orioles, I'm going with Kansas City, and for no other reason other than I'm a huge Bobby Witt Jr. fan. So, Collin, who do you have in the Kansas City Orioles wild card?
I think this has the potential to be one of the most fun series to watch throughout the whole entire playoffs. I know, like Marty talked about, being from the St. Louis area, you're not supposed to be a huge Royals fan, but I find myself cheering for this Royals team often, man. They have all kinds of firepower on that rotation. Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, the list goes on. Then you have that offense. You have Bobby Witt. I think they're going to get Vinny Pasquantino back for the playoffs and that this first round of the wild card series, what I read today, and that's big for them as well. Obviously, the Orioles are star-studded as well, man. The list goes on past Gunnar Henderson for sure. They have one of the best young catchers in baseball in Adley Rutschman. Santander always seems to find the long ball. You sprinkle in all the Jackson Holiday excitement, all the other young prospect excitement. That team is star-studded. So this is just a hard-nosed matchup, man. The studs versus studs. But I'm going to shock a lot of people with this pick, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Kansas City Royals as well. I think the Royals go ahead and seal the deal here, secure the bag, and advance past the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I was going to say that this was probably my favorite series to watch, especially game one. It's going to be Cole Reagans versus Corbin Burns, if I had to guess. Should be. But yeah, they're both fully loaded with young guys, young talent. I mean, Miguel Garcia, Bobby Witt, Vinny P. You got all them young. MJ Melendez is hell. He's been tearing it up this year, and I never thought them words would come out of my mouth.
Hey,
And then
let's
you
not
got
forget the old just the old guy to just come out and do it year after year. And
Grandpa behind the plate.
Salvador Perez, man. I mean, he seems to find his way too, and what a leader he is for this team. Sorry to interrupt you, Jordan. I didn't want us to forget the old man behind the plate that seems to keep this thing humming.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I'm just gonna have to disagree with you too and take the Orioles in this series, just to be that guy, you know. I mean, I think like Adley Rutsch, like I said, Adley Rutschman, Gunner. I can sit here and name the whole damn near the whole both lineups, and I like the young talent out there, and I think it's going to shape up to be one of the most fun series in October, and probably going to be my favorite series of the playoffs, and I'm going to stand by that, and we'll see how she goes.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Jordan. I think that is going to be a great series. I think you're going to see a lot of youth in that series, and I just love watching stuff like that. So, Collin, so you picked Detroit. So, who do you think is going to come ahead of the Guardians and Detroit series? Then, if that's the way you're going there.
Yeah, if things go my way, man, the Tigers do win that first wild card series against the Houston Astros. I would have the Tigers playing the Cleveland Guardians. And hey, man, I told you guys before the season started, watch out for the Tigers like Marty talked about. I'm going to stay with it. I'm taking the Tigers to advance past the Cleveland Guardians as well. I think the Tigers bullpen and the Tigers rotation keeps them moving deep into the play. I think I'm going to give the edge of the Tigers. They were so hot coming down the stretch in the last couple of weeks. I think they ride that momentum, and I think it takes them on a deep run.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Jordan. Who do you have coming out of that series? Since you're like me and you can't pick a Houston team either.
See, I think I'm gonna have to side with the Guardians here. I think Jose Ramirez, which we didn't talk about him earlier. I think I seen something this afternoon. He finished his game got postponed today, I think, or something, and he had 39 home runs, 30 doubles, and 41 stolen bases, and he was trying to go for the 40-40-40 season. Which all these numbers, they're just gonna keep adding. They're going to keep adding stat categories and just saying 40-40-40-40 all the time. But I mean, it is
he
cool
is
to
the
see.
most underrated player in baseball, in my opinion.
I agree with that too.
I'm glad you talked about him because he does not get the justice that he has deserved. Thank you for bringing him up.
But yeah, I'm going to stick with the Guardians over the Tigers. I mean, I love that matchup too. Should be a fun series to watch.
Hey, real quick, while you're talking about Jose Ramirez, do you think the Cleveland fans are still pissed that the Guardians kept Jose Ramirez over Francisco Lindor? Because when they moved on from Lindor and locked up Jose Ramirez, the Cleveland fans were upset. But looking back now, man, hindsight's 2020. But man, they chose the right guy, in my opinion, on this one. Sorry to cut you off, Marty. We can advance, but
No,
you boys know I
oh
like
no,
to throw this out there.
Oh no, you're fine. I lay it on, baby. I am also a big Quan fan, so I'm gonna go with the or I'm sorry with the Guardians as well in that series. And more than anything, I just love to watch how that guy played. I love watching those players that don't necessarily get they don't have all the flash, they don't have all that stuff, but they just play the game right. And I feel like he's somebody who, if they could get back, I feel like he would definitely be a difference in this series. So
he's one of those guys that you pull for because he's one of those less naturally gifted players that probably had to fight a little harder and work a little harder to get his way here. So yeah, you absolutely pull for guys like Stephen Quan for sure. But hey, go Tigers. Cleveland Guardians got no shot. I'm going to keep riding the Tigers, boys, by myself.
Well, Collin, then I'll go with you then. So who do you have coming out of the Kansas City New York series then?
Just like we talked about, you can't cheer for the Astros. You just can't cheer for the Yankees. Hey, give me them Royals, baby. They're going to make a run at this thing, too. I talked about it. The Royals pitching is much better than the Yankees pitching down the stretch. I'm going to keep riding this pitching train. Give me the Kansas City Royals for all the reasons we talked about before. I'm not picking the Yankees because I hate the Yankees. I think Aaron Judge is a stud. I think Juan Soto is a stud. And, man, as I sit here and talk about how I really think the Royals are going to move past them, I think I might be betting with my heart on this one quite a bit because you face that righty-lefty matchup anytime, no matter who's on the bump against them. They will scratch some runs regardless at some point in every single game between the two of those guys. So it's going to be a tough task at hand for the Royals. But I think if they play some small ball, play aggressive, move runners over, play smart old school baseball, and let the Yankees keep trying to lift the ball out of the park, and the Royals just get back to the fundamentals of baseball, I think that is how they take this series. And I think you'll be surprised that if the Royals do advance past the Orioles with momentum, I think they do give the Yankees everything they want.
Yeah, no. So back to the Cardinals topic. I know you're not going to want to go back there, but I just looked. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto hit 99 home runs combined. And do you know what all the players on the Cardinals team hit this year?
I bet you it was under 99.
No, it was over. It was over by, it wasn't over. It's 160. So they've hit Cardinals' whole team. I don't even know how many's on the roster. Hit 61 more home runs than two players on the Yankees. Like that, just shit like that just blows my mind. I mean, yeah, they don't play in Yankee Ballpark, but I still don't. I think you'd put them two in the St. Louis Busch Stadium, and they're still hitting 50 home runs.
For sure. I mean, without a doubt. And to your point, it makes it really hard to pick against the Yankees because of the firepower like that. But sometimes you see the long ball die in October, boys, and I think that's what happens here for the Yankees.
I hope so. I hope so because I have Kansas City beating them as well, and just perfectly for the fact that I struggle with teams that have a little bit easier ballpark to hit home runs out of. I always have. I'm a sore loser when it comes to that. So I'm definitely going with Kansas City there. And you're right. In playoff baseball, you get to these later months, and it just seems like the home run balls they seem like they get harder to hit at times. No,
well, the bats are colder. It's colder outside. The air's a little thicker. These guys don't like taking one off the hands as much because it hurts a little bit more. These pitchers seem to get inside on them a little bit more in the playoffs. They're not afraid to brush them off. But I mean, I think one thing we did miss here, Jordan, is who was your pick? I mean, I think you were the one that was against the Royals, and I think you had Orioles, Yankees, if I'm not mistaken. So we talk about the Orioles being the most fun series. If the Orioles win and you have Orioles Yankees, that could take the cake as the most fun series. So I actually am super anxious to see who you picked in that series.
Yeah, no, I have the Orioles winning that one in mind. I know I just talked about Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, and I am just like the Astros. I'm not a Yankees fan at all. I really don't think, Collin said earlier, betting with the heart. I really do genuinely love the Royals. Say the Royals do beat the Orioles and I'm wrong. I love both of them teams beating the Yankees because you never have that. I mean, I guess they are the wagon because they're the one seed. You just never have them win in October. And yeah, I'm going with the Orioles, and it should be fun. I'd love to see. Hopefully, if I am wrong, I would love to see the Royals. And if the Royals do beat them, the Orioles the first round, I would love to see them beat the Yankees. But
Well,
it might.
I think too though, we're talking about this, and one thing that we haven't talked about yet is these 1 and 2 seeds. They sit, man. They have some downtime. They kind of lose some momentum that they might have had, or they lose if Aaron Judge is swinging a hot stick trying to push, for that 50 home run mark that he hit. You swing that hot stick, you start to lose that later on because you sit around for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, whatever it ends up being. So you might go cold, and then you come back out to play real life baseball again, and it's all of a sudden 10, 15 degrees colder in your ballpark. So I mean, those buys and that downtime really does set up some of these other teams to continue riding the wave, continue on the momentum, like the Tigers coming in hot, like the Royals. I mean, all these teams, the Orioles themselves got really hot here at the end, and I think they pushed a bet on the over of their total wins for you, Jordan, here at the end when it didn't look good. So all these teams hot coming in. Yankees going to sit around. I like our picks, boys. I think the Orioles or the Royals, either one punch the Yankees in the mouth. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I hope we see that. I really do. So, Collin, that leaves you for the ALS series. That's going to leave you with the Royals versus Tigers if all things go your way. What are you looking for there, man?
I'm laughing because I might be one of the only people in the world that
Royals. Who would have ever dreamed this one up, huh?
Man, you guys know me. I like to make things interesting. I never go with the chalk. You guys know me. I'm a hot take guy, and I'm hot taking the Tigers and the Royals. And man, Jesus, all I can say is if it's the Tigers and the Royals and the ALCS, like I'm predicting here, hammer the under in every single baseball game because this is going to be pitchers duel out the ass. I'm going to give the nod to the Tigers, boys. I wrote them coming in. I'm going to ride them all the way through. I told you guys that. I'm sticking with it. I'm not backing down now. I think this team has found their stride. I think this team has found their game plan. I think this team has found their way to win. It took 162 games to find it, and I think they found it, and they're hot now. And great things from the Tigers coming, man. They're a young ball club. They're a hungry ball club, and they're ready to prove everybody wrong that doubted them like both of you guys did. So kiss my ass, go Tigers.
All right. Well, Jordan, if all your picks go the way that you want them to, your ALCS will have the Guardians versus the Orioles. Who do you have coming out ahead in that series?
I'm going with the Orioles. I know I've loved them from the beginning of the year, and I know they got cold. Second half was bad. I actually went across the river and did a preseason over on wins, and it was 90.5. And I think they were at 85 wins with 7 games left, and they ended up winning 6 out of 7 to end the season. And I think they're going to build on that and get hot in October, and we're gonna see them in the World Series this year. I think their average age is like 14. No, it's like 27. I think it is. It's incredible is what their starters are, but we're riding with them young boys, and hopefully they get it done. So I ain't wrong, and I can talk shit on Collin.
Well, hey man, these you're talking about them being young, and that's huge for them because if they're young and they make a run right now, I think some of their best players are still on the rise and still on the come up. Like, we talked about Jackson Holiday a little bit earlier. The list goes on for these young prospects on the Orioles. And if they can get it done this year and make a true World Series push this year, look out. They are off to the races down the stretch in the future years, and they are really going to have this thing humming if that's the case. And Jordan, I could see it. I really can't see this happening. I think it all comes down to that first series between the Royals and the Orioles on this, obviously. But I think whoever wins that does make a run to that ALCS.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you if everything works out for me, I'm really going on I'm living on a prayer here a little bit. But if everything works out for me, I'm going Royals versus Guardians here. And I have the Royals coming out ahead just because I can't believe that we're here talking about the Guardians. A part of me just didn't really think that we would kind of be having this conversation right now. So if I'm going to pick the Royals, to beat the Orioles, I might as well continue to pick the Royals because if I feel like if they could beat the Orioles, if they could beat these other teams in these playoffs, then they must be a pretty damn good team. So I'm going to ride them out. And I'm saying that the Royals are going to go to the World Series. So with that in mind.
Well, hey, before we move on, Marty,
Yeah.
I want to say that I totally agree with you about the Guardians thing, and I think this is why I found myself picking the Tigers as well, because maybe I do have that bias, that preseason bias for the Tigers, because I took them to make the playoffs and they made it all happen for me. So I'm a huge fan of them all of a sudden because they won me some cash. But you know, I I'm with you. I can't figure out how to say it. I didn't see the Guardians being a 2 seed in the playoffs in the AL this year. I just never thought that would happen. I thought there was no way. And here we are. So I think that's part of the reason too I'm picking against them as well. So, if the Royals do it, that's awesome. I'm kind of a Royals fan a little bit because of their players as well, like the Bobby Witt thing. So, I mean, I think one of us does get this right. I don't think the Yankees pull this off. I mean, what's cool is all three of us took a different team. We have 6 teams. So we have a 50% shot to hit this, and we left the 1 and 2 seeds out of it. So that makes this extremely exciting.
Yeah, speaking of another division that has a top tier team that hopefully none of us pick, we're gonna go over here to the NLDS since we don't have the wild card quite straightened out here. We'll go ahead and go to the NLDS, but I'll start with myself here. So for the NLDS, I actually had the Dodgers winning out there and I also have the Brewers beating the Phillies. So that's my NLDS. You good, Colin?
No, you're good. I was making that face because I'm disagreeing with you on both. I love it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think the Dodgers are good enough, obviously, to beat whoever's going to come out of the wild card. And I think the same thing of the Phillies. As much as I do like the Brewers, I just don't see a team like the Brewers beating the Phillies. In my opinion, I think that the Phillies just have far too much experience on that team to allow something like that to happen. And if the Dodgers do get knocked out of the NLDS, I mean, I'll be running around outside in a drunken stupor, pretty happy. I'm not gonna lie about that. I'll wear that one on my face for a while. But I have LA winning out. So Colin, who do you have winning out in the NLDS?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the wild card just a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of hypotheticals on this.
Sure.
I think if the Braves make it and they don't get swept on Monday and the Braves are comfortably in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to fall to that 6 or that 5 seed. But what I'm going to say, follow me on this, is if the Braves or the Diamondbacks one of those two teams are in the 6 seed playing the Brewers, I think the Braves or the Diamondbacks, either one, advance past the Brewers. I think the Brewers get knocked off first round by the Braves or the Diamondbacks. If the Mets play the Brewers, I'm going to give the nod to the Brewers. I think that's the only team the Brewers beat out of those 3 teams fighting for those last 2 playoff spots. Now, fast forward over to the 5 seed versus the 4 seed with the Padres. The Padres beat any of those 3 teams. Whichever team gets on that mark against the Padres, I had the Padres winning that. So just to kind of keep things easy, I'm going to say the Brewers play the Diamondbacks and advance the Brewers, and I'm going to say the Padres advance past the Braves or the Mets, whoever they play. So that would give me the Padres, the Padres and the Dodgers, kind of right there, and that would give me the Phillies and the Brewers. I'm going to take the Phillies to advance past the Brewers. I think the Phillies are, I'm going to say, the best team in the NL in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think the Phillies can kind of go get this thing done. I don't think the Phillies have any problems with the Brewers, Diamondbacks, Braves, Mets, whoever you throw at them in that round. I know I talked earlier about teams getting cold and sitting out a little bit, but this team has some veteran presence. Bryce Harper, I don't need to say anything other than that. They do have a guy like Kyle Schwarber. He's been around. He's been to the World Series as well. They have plenty of veteran leadership on this team to get this team get up, get ready for this game, have good preparation for whoever they're playing. I don't think sitting down, getting cold affects a Philadelphia Phillies baseball team. Now, the Dodgers and the Padres series, Padres win this series, in my opinion. I don't think the Dodgers get past them. I think the Dodgers sitting around does affect them a little bit. And I'm going to give the nod to a super red-hot San Diego Padres team who has plenty of firepower, who has a lineup that can match up with the Dodgers just about as well as any other team in baseball could match up against the Dodgers. Padres it is for me. Phillies it is for me. On to the NLCS. J-Rod, how are we looking for the NL for you, buddy?
So as I sit here and you were talking about the different ways that wild card could match up with the doubleheader tomorrow, whether it's the Mets or the Diamondbacks. I just think the Brewers get it done up there on the top, and it don't matter who they play. Just coming from the St. Louis Cardinal boycott I'm on, and they're in the Central, and hell, I feel like they can take a homeless guy out there and put him in left field, and he's gonna bat 280 or higher. It's crazy.
Dude, they always get guys to work out for them. You're exactly correct. The garbage man playing center next week will work.
Yep, so I'm going with the Brewers to play the Phillies and then LDS. And then down on the bottom, I'm going to ride with the Padres. Like I said, don't matter who they end up playing. Now, if I take this back and I say there's a healthy Braves team with Acuna and Spencer Strider, it's a different story. But if it's like that, these C's are not like that, because the Braves making it in right now and if they do make it in and win one game tomorrow, it's impressive. I mean, they just, like we talked about earlier, we already hit that point, so I ain't even going there. But yeah, I'm going to go down to the NLDS where I'd have the Dodgers versus the Padres. And I'm going to take the Padres over the Dodgers because just, just like the Yankees and the Astros, I will not cheer for the Dodgers. And I do say that I hate the team, but if I honestly saw these games ending up differently with one of them, I'd say it. Obviously, I ain't gonna just bet against the hatred of my heart. But yeah, I got the Padres. Their lineups got red hot. Manny Machado, out of all people that I'd talk about, Manny Machado has been good. Jack Jerkson, Profar, Jake Cronenworth, hell, even Xander Bogaerts is hitting a baseball. And then we'll go up to the Phillies. I have the Phillies versus the Brewers, and I'm going to take the Brew Crew over the Phillies, and it's kind of hard to do with, I know, Bryce Harper's Mr. October or whatever.
Aren't you a self-proclaimed Phillies fan? And you're going to take the Brewers over the Phillies?
No, I was a Philly fan last year when I rode them deep. I had them winning it last year, and they let me down, so I'm going against them this year.
Whew. Man, Hey, I'm gonna be honest, Jordan. Coming on this show, we hadn't talked about who you were gonna pick right there, and I would have bet my next paycheck that Jordan was taking the Philadelphia Phillies to beat the Milwaukee Brewers, and I would have thought there was no questions, no hesitation. Thought that was a clean sweep. But hey, Jordan, I like that we don't have the same picks here, fellas. This makes this shit fun. That's what's so exciting about playoff baseball and everybody's opinions coming together. This is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I love making picks like this, but I would have also bet my entire paycheck that J-Rod would have had the Phillies there. But hey, I do have the Phillies winning, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if things work out my way, I will have the Dodgers versus the Phillies. And I am a Bryce Harper fanboy for the most part. I love his passion. I know it irritates a lot of people, but I come from a hockey background where passion is like worn on your sleeve while you're spitting out your teeth and like spitting blood on the ice. Like I love stuff that's over the top. I like when people are over the top. I like when people get worked up. I like when people get mad. I like when people charge the mound. I like when people maybe throw a late slide in a second. I like it, you're sliding around, spikes up. I eat that stuff up. I just do. I was one of the people that got upset when they took contact away from the catcher there when there's a play at home plate. Now, in hindsight, obviously, that was an important rule change that needed to be made. Now, athletes are basically made in test tubes and labs. I mean, you have to be genetically, superior, and you have, the sciences behind you. People are eating right. They're taking their creatine and maybe they're rub-on steroids from time to time, and these are
except Stephen Kwan.
except for that guy, and except for maybe, let's say, a Burleson on the Cardinals there. We got some people that on the Cardinals squad that don't look quite athletic these days.
Burleson and me look exactly alike. Drink a 6-pack after the game. Don't skip the gym, drink a few, talk about what happened, and maybe focus on it the next day. But that's fun. So fun.
The dude has to love Natty Light. Like, I mean, if I'm a betting man, that dude drinks Busch or Natty Light guaranteed, and he loves like egg sandwiches or something. Puts mayonnaise on everything, I bet. Anyways,
100%. But real quick, if it's really the Dodgers and the Phillies, Marty, this is going to be one of the hardest series for me to sit down and watch again. I cannot stand watching the Phillies and Dodgers play baseball against one another.
Yeah, I have the Dodgers winning, unfortunately. I have them going to the World Series. I'm not saying that I'm happy about it, but I also have to be kind of realistic about some things. I just see them, like you said, you think that they have some weaknesses depending on, who in what happens on the bump there. But I just think that any weaknesses that they have the firepower to overcome it. I think the Dodgers are going to go to the World Series. So I do have a Royals Dodgers World Series. Collin, who do you have?
In my NLCS, if things go the exact way that I want them to and have them set up, I would have the Padres playing the Phillies. And I cannot believe I'm saying this because I rode Jordan's ass last year about the Phillies, and I kind of rode his ass this year about the Phillies off and on. I'll be honest, the Phillies are right up there with me. It's one of the most hated teams in all of sports for me. But kind of betting with some sense here on this one as well. Like you said, Marty, for you with the Dodgers, I'm going to take the Phillies to advance past the Padres. I find myself cheered for the Padres quite a bit. I'm a huge Fernando Tatis Jr. fan, but I'm going to give the nod to the Phillies. And I'm going to have a Phillies-Tigers World Series.
Wow. Jordan, who do you got coming out of the NLCS? Who do you have going to the World Series?
I have in my NLCS the Padres versus the Brewers, the Brew Crew, Collin. And my winner coming out of that is the Padres. And I had a gut feeling the Padres at the end of the year, and I'm riding with it. I'm sticking to it. I had a gut feeling last year the Phillies, and that didn't work. And Collin gave me a lot of shit for that, and Marty. They let me know when I was wrong. But yeah, friendly little competition here. I'm taking the Padres. It'll be Padres versus the Orioles in the World Series. So
I love it. I think that's great. I hope we absolutely see that. So I guess now this leaves everybody's World Series pick. If things go your way.
Hang on, Marty. Hang on. I'm laughing still.
Sorry. I didn't realize that. It must have been a silent laugh.
It was. I had myself muted, but I came back laughing still. Read everybody's World Series teams real quick, and let's grade them between the three of us for the most realistic to unrealistic. Because I feel like mine has like a 2% chance of happening with the Tigers in the World Series. So do that. Let's rank that shit before we tell everybody.
Sure. So for Jordan, we have an Orioles Padres World Series. For Collin, we have a Tigers Phillies World Series. And for myself, Marty, we have a Royals Dodgers World Series. I think that it's safe to say that we have some teams that we clearly don't want to see be successful in this postseason.
Look, the only way our baseball show gets views after this first episode is if the Tigers or the Royals make a run at the World Series for us, because then we look great. But I have to say that Jordan's is by far the most realistic chance probably for a World Series matchup. And then honestly, I'm probably going to say you it too, Marty, because of the Dodgers. And I think they probably are best set up to make a run at that. And I think the Royals probably could get it done before the Tigers could as well. Just my scare with the Royals is they have to get through a gauntlet with the Orioles and then go beat the Yankees back to back. And that's tough. The Tigers pick seems crazy. It really does, but hear me out on this. I would rather play the Astros over the Orioles or the Yankees from the Tigers, and I would rather play the Guardians over the Yankees or the Orioles again if I'm the Tigers. So I feel like if they just ride the wave, stay hot, like I said earlier, play small ball, win the game the right way, back to old school fundamental baseball, the Tigers really can get to the ALCS. Now, where I think it is hard is when they do have to match up against the Orioles, the Yankees, or Royals, because I think the other teams' offenses are all much better than the Tigers. So I'm going to say I probably have the most unrealistic chance at getting this right. But man, Jordan, I think you do have the best shot here, and I don't say that very often.
No, with what you said about the bracket, picking the Tigers right now in this bracket, I will be 100%. We talked about it 100% honest. They have the upper hand in that bracket. They have the Astros and the Guardians. And like you said, I'd rather play them 10 times over than one of them at the bottom. The Royals, the Orioles, or the Yankees. I mean, that bottom left is a wagon on the bracket. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Brewers, my picks with the Padres and the Orioles. Just something about it, man. I don't know. It's just my heart's telling me we're riding with it, you know?
Hey, follow the gut, baby, especially in October. You follow the gut in October, sometimes it doesn't let you down.
Yeah, I mean, that's strictly what I'm doing. I mean, I just like this Kansas City baseball team. I've liked them all season long. I know that me and
They're
Colin, me and
gamers,
Jordan,
man.
they are. They're just we've all kind of commented on how fun they are to watch. So I mean, this is more just I like this. I like watching this team, so I want to see this team go far. I want to watch this team all throughout the postseason. This is not something that's very scientific, but it's just the thing that I want to see the most. If I have a gut feeling, what do I want to see the most throughout the postseason? I want to watch the Royals play as long as I can. They're an exciting team. I like the way
It's
they
that
play.
underdog mentality. It's that underdog
It
mentality,
is.
man. The Yankees knew they would be here, right? The Yankees knew they would be in this spot. This is not a surprise for the Yankees. They came into the season knowing, hey, we have the best chance to be the 1 seed in the AL, and they did it. Congratulations to them. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. Congratulations to them. But you get a team like the Royals and the Tigers in here who didn't necessarily think that they had a shot to get to this spot. And it's like one of those football games or basketball games where you watch the underdog, and the longer they stay in it, the more of a chance they have to go win it, because they're like, holy shit, fellas, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. Hey, we're still here. We're still here. And the longer they stay in it, the greater their chances increase. That's why I like these underdog teams in October, man. This is what makes it so much fun, because they have just as good of a shot, and they now have the confidence of the Yankees. They now have the confidence of the Dodgers, because they are here. They did it. They're going to ride it. And I really hope the Tigers or the Royals won, not just for our sake, but because I want to see an underdog story like that take place.
Yeah, I agree. It's what we all look forward to come playoff time, because there's going to at least be one, right? I mean, typically there's almost always one. So you're trying to sit there and you're trying to play it in your mind who you want that one to be if you could have it your way. And so for me, it's the Royals, and I'll just come out and say it. I hate the Dodgers so much. I have the Royals beating the Dodgers in the World Series. Let's see if that was on anybody's bingo card at the beginning of the season there, huh? Like, that's a little ridiculous, but here I
What
am
wasn't on mine?
saying it. Right,
What
right. I mean, even if
wasn't
it was
on
a free
mine, man?
space on your bingo card, I still wouldn't have put it there. But here I am. I have the Royals beating the Dodgers in the World Series. Colin, looks like you're
Well,
having a
Marty,
Tigers Phillies World Series here. Who thought we'd be saying that? Who do you have raising the trophy in the World Series here?
that wasn't on a bingo card either, and that's more like a get out of jail free spot on the board, not a free space.
There
But
we go.
yeah, if it's a Phillies Tigers World Series matchup, I'm gonna bring some sense into this at this point, and I'm gonna say the Phillies get it done. The Phillies are a loaded team. Zach Wheeler on the bump will match up. If this is all hypothetical, the odds the Tigers get here aren't great. But if the Phillies match up against the Tigers, and we have a game one versus Zach Wheeler and Tariq Skubal, boys, tune in. Even if you're not a baseball fan, tune in, because that is as high caliber of a duel as you're going to see on the bump, and as high caliber of a situation as you're going to see. And we can only hope that game goes to a game 6 or a game 7, because if they get to do it again with the World Series trophy on the line in that situation, that is what we watch baseball for. So I'm going to lean Phillies on this. Can't stand them, but I do think they get it done this time around.
All right, well, that leaves you, Jordan. You have, I would say, you have quite an exciting World Series. If I out of all of them, I mean, I would definitely probably think that would be a high scoring or at least an exciting series to watch. Who do you have coming out on top of the World Series?
That is the
I
total opposite World Series of what mine would be in a pitcher's duel. Jordan, yours is scoring 10 a game.
Yeah,
Right.
we're running over if mine happens. But in my World Series, I got the Padres versus the Orioles, and I'm gonna side with the Padres. And just Mike Schilt, good for him. I'm glad they made a run at the end of it, because I think as a Cardinals fan, that should be our manager. And I'm sticking to that. And I don't think the guy done nothing wrong. And he got shit canned out of St. Louis for he was way better than Ollie Marmol is, and look what we're doing now, keeping him and letting him tag along.
Well, the Cardinals and Marmol are watching this from the couch, so that's what they're doing. That's what they
Yeah.
did wrong.
Yeah, they're knocking the dust. They're knocking the dust off the golf club so they can hit the course one last time before winter. I mean, it just pisses me off so much that, yeah, like Colin said, creative differences. Like what are we in a band? Is that what we're doing here? Or are we in a Pink Floyd tribute band? What are we doing here in St. Louis? This is stupid. It makes no sense. It pisses me off.
Currently, as we sit here, the Cardinals players are doing the same thing I was earlier today. They're digging in the couch, looking for the remote, trying to find something on TV. Maybe they just subscribed to YouTube TV and got the Red Zone channel for the rest of the offseason because they're back in the same seat they were before the season started, and we knew that's where they were going to be.
Yeah. And so folks that are watching this podcast, you're going to hear a lot of this. We're going to constantly tie in all the ridiculous stuff that the Cardinals did or did not do into probably everything. You might have to split some atoms. You might have to do some math to make it fit, but we'll make it fit into everything. It somehow ties back to the Cardinals, and they suck and they piss me off. So,
I'm still, once again, I'm laughing my ass off again because I sit here and when you tuned into this show, no chance in hell did anybody think that we were going to have a World Series that involved the Tigers, the Royals. Nobody probably thought that we were going to have an NLCS that involved the Brewers like Jordan did. So we gave you tons of different looks, tons of different picks, broke down every series even, and told you kind of what some teams have to do to upset the Giants, like not necessarily the San Francisco Giants, hypothetically speaking, as the Giants of the bigger teams, as in
the David versus the Goliath.
There you go, the Davids versus Goliaths of the world, and this could really be interesting. But one thing I want to do and have a segment at the very end of each show, I want to ask Jordan and Marty a fun fact question. So my first fun fact question on our inaugural episode is, fellas, can either one of you tell me who had the hardest exit velocity hit of the season in the major leagues this season?
Ooh, I like this question.
Without looking this up, you guys are going to get a few seconds here to think about this. Who do you guys think had the hardest hit ball of the season? You guys can also ask a hint.
Okay, yeah, I would like a hint. Is this player AL or NL?
This is a National League player.
Can I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
O'Neal Cruz.
Bingo. O'Neal Cruz had the hardest hit ball this season with 121.5 miles per hour. And in second was the old school whiplasher Giancarlo Stanton with 120.
Wow.
O'Neal Cruz is legit.
He didn't hit that long ago, did he?
No, and if I'm not mistaken, I think O'Neal Cruz just had multiple over 118, over 119. I mean, I think he's kind of consistently the hardest hitter of the ball. I mean, off the bat, I think his average exit velocity is like 95.5 miles per hour, if I remember reading that correctly off the bat, and that is impressive. If that guy could limit the strikeouts, what an asset he could be for that Pirates baseball team.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure like last week or 2 weeks ago, he hit 4 of them in the same game, and they were all over 114. And I think that's when he hit that hardest one.
Holy I mean, when he puts the barrel on the ball, fellas, I mean, he shits on it. Now, look, his barrel percentage is like 9%, so that's not great. But when he does find the barrel, my Lord, he is a problem.
I think we're getting ready to wrap this up here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our first baseball-themed podcast. Now, remember, that's Opposite Field Deep Thread Sports Network. Also, do not forget our wild card series. It starts off here, Game 1, Tuesday, October 1st. This is coming up close here, fellas, so get ready for playoff baseball. I think we're all very excited here. Also, if you would please do us a solid and follow us on all of our socials. On X, that is DT_sports_ on YouTube. That is Deep Thread Sports. On Spotify, that is Deep Thread Sports. On Facebook, that is Deep Thread Sports Network. On Instagram, that is Deep Thread Sports. That is one word ending with a Z. And then on TikTok, we have Deep Thread Sports Network. Thank you, everybody. This has been a joy for all of us here on this Deep Thread Sports Network podcast. We're really enjoying all this. We've got college football. We've got NFL. Now we're starting baseball. We have NASCAR, and we have plans for more in the future. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a real pleasure. We'll see you next time.